G'day, hope you guys are all having a good one. In today's video, I'm going to be covering EmberGen to Unity. I've already covered Unreal, so if you guys are interested in checking out Unreal, go and watch that video. However, of course, in this instance, we're going to be covering Unity. We are going to be covering as well the flipbook side of things. I'm not too sure if Unity supports VDBs. However, flipbooks is kind of generally the way that you would most of the time want to go. So that is effectively what we're going to be covering. Now, you can choose whichever one you want as your preset. You could, for example, use a game fire or some loop. I'm going to be covering the candle flame, as that's, I got two effective candles within my game, so this is something that I'm kind of used to, and I will cover this. However, the same thing applies for these simulations. If you want to do like explosions, just note that the resolution is going to be effectively lower unless you are rendering a higher resolution as opposed to a small effect such as a candle. So I'll go get into that now. So first and foremost, we've got our awesome little candle effect. I'm not going to mess around and go and set up the simulation. It's fine. I will do some minor things and I can make sure that it's going to work exactly the way that I want it for my game. And maybe this is helpful for you guys. However, this is effectively how it's going to be. So first and foremost, I'm of course going to want this to be a looping simulation. I don't want the candle to be turning on every single time. Maybe that is the case, however, not for this instance. So to turn on looping, you go into simulation, and then under time control, you'll find looping. Now, the thing to note here is you'll get an error if you have upscaling. So just make sure that you turn upscaling off, as you can see. So you turn off upscaling, go to loop, and as you can see there, now it works. And ignore this. This is just noting that if you have particles, turn off the particles, as they aren't set up to work properly. Now, the first issue you're going to be running into, just a random button it seems, is you're starting from 0. You don't really want to start from 0 because you're not going to necessarily get this when the simulation completely restarts and it's fully loading. You're going to run into the issue of effectively you're getting the flame going up as like a full stop. So I'll just shove the simulation to around 160. In practice, this is generally a good place to be. And with that being the case, we also therefore need to move the render to start at 160 as well. Now, the issue is, trying to balance the, effectively trying to balance the render to the simulation. So if we have a very small simulation, so we're going to see this. Once this, yeah, this is effectively the simulation. Very, very short, kind of a bit repetitive. And so for this instance, I'm going to increase to 9:9. I feel like this generally gives me a pretty solid result. So 9:9 would be 80 frames. If we go import, I guess you can go 81. And there we go. Now we can now extend this. So let's go to 240, which is right. And so as you can see here, we've got a little bit of a bit of movement. You can mess around with it if you dislike it or you like it. So you can by theory that force should be, there you go, a little bit less. You can mess around with it, of course, if you like or dislike, but this is kind of fine for me, I guess, for the sake of the tutorial anyway. So from here, we are going to want to effectively double check that the camera's right. So in this instance, I will add a skybox, as I feel like this is generally the best way to visualize this. 1 second. I want to note that you need to have a sun. I had to double check that for that to effectively be visible. So just doing this allows you to see the bounds. I think one thing that could be nice to see from Jenga is effectively maybe having like a grayed out, or you know, having like a line that denotes the border if you do have a black screen. As of course it therefore is a little bit tricky. So from here, we're just going to make sure we want to encase the whole simulation as best as we can, so we can get as much resolution as possible in our simulation, which you can see there. And from here, we can just turn off the skybox again. And as you can see, it's all fitting within. Next up, we are going to, I believe for this instance, we can use pre-multiplied alpha. You can sometimes get issues if you're not using smoke by using pre-multiplied alpha. So originally, I'll go check this out and we'll find out whether that works or not. Make sure your flipbook sizing and stuff matches your camera. So we see 2048 by 2048, whereas here it's 256. That's not ideal. So we'll go 2048 by 2048 to make sure that we are making the most of that resolution there. And everything is linked up properly and should be working well. So next you'll just go and choose your directory, which I will quickly do now. Awesome. And once you've got that set up, everything should be pretty much good to go. Make any final changes that you want, and you can go and press export now. Take a second for it to get into the right area, then you'll see it go. I do note that it is cut off a little bit of the top, so I'm going to go quickly fix that. There is no real movement, unfortunately, as well, so I'm just going to go double check that I got everything right. Okay, my apologies. I didn't do it when I adjusted my display resolution. I mucked it up. So make sure to double check after changing your display resolution that it still fits. I have, for the sake of this, just quickly mucked around with the force noise to make sure I bring a bit of that movement back. However, I just adjusted the animation speed and scale, just so it's less repetitive, and I feel like this looks a little bit better. So now you can go and render that out again and make sure it all looks good. As you can see there, it's a little bit off center, which I'm not too big of a fan of. However, it's kind of fine for the sake of this. Feel free to adjust that in your own instance. Next, I will go and bring that up and we can go double check that everything's looking good. As you can see here, I have run into an issue. So there's something to note if you do run into the same issue. This is probably important to bring up. This is because I'm using pre-multiplied alpha. If you're not using smoke, it does sometimes muck up. Now, in my instance, I ran into the case of that being working for me last time I did that. However, this time it seems to be causing issues. So just do note that if you do run into any issues, and as you can see here, when I reopen it up, you've got it looking good. Now, if you want to be able to double check that prior, you can use Game Texture Viewer, which is another program by Django Effects. And it's for being able to check these. So to run you guys through how you can utilize this, I went into my thing. You can see here, sitting at 9:9 is my thing. You can see it working there. Now the speed at which it's playing is wrong because I'd need to set that up. But however, it's getting the idea across, so you can see that it's exactly what I need. So next we're going to go and open up Unity, so feel free to open it. And we're going to go and import the effective stuff. So as you can see here, we've got it all in. Now there's a couple ways that you can approach this. So by default, of course, you've got your alpha as transparent. You can do this here. However, in the instance of the video, in the way that I'm going to be doing it, I'm not going to do it there. However, that is an opportunity that you can make the most of. So we're going to go and right-click our project file location. You can go under Visual Effects and select a visual effect graph. And for the sake of this, I'm going to be running a minimal system, and I'll create the extra sections just because I don't have to go around deleting a bunch of stuff. And we're going to go create, and you can just name this whatever, candle tutorial, and then open that up, which will run us into this. Now, in the case of some extra things that I will do around the end, just to give an example of how you could utilize both the flipbooking and the visual effects graph toolsets, I will be using some tips that have been provided by a video posted by Cam Ayers. So I will link that into the description of this video if you want to watch more of his content and how he approaches some things, but I will be utilizing some stuff like that to show how you can utilize a mix of both systems. So first and foremost, we're going to add a single burst, and this is what this is going to do, is effectively get the visual effect to appear. I'm going to choose one. We only want one. For the sake of making this simple for us, I'm going to add this into the scene so we can visualize it. Now, of course, you're not going to see it there, and the reason for that is making sure that we input the system here. So I named this candle, this one, candle flame. Of course, it's going to look not good there. We're going to make sure we're going to do flipbook. That's going to, well, of course, flipbook it. Now, I chose for my instance 9x9. However, if you did 8x8, do 8x8. Ignore the fact that we are, you know, it's a little bit different color. This is just effectively some post-processing that we've applied to our game. So don't worry, you're going to have the right colors on yours. That's just the instance of mine. So as you can see here now, we've got it all up and going. Now you can do alpha or additive, or you can also do clipping as well. And adjust the threshold there. Now I believe that clipping can often be better performance. However, if you're doing quite a transparent flame similar to me, you may not want to run into that. Now another issue that you're going to run into is it's flat. Now if you're doing like an explosion, you may want it to be flat. For example, I have this flipbook of a fireplace. Now, in that instance, I didn't want it to orient. However, for something like this, I would want to orient it. And so that's just going orient, face, camera, plane. And as you can see there, it's orienting, which is amazing. And that's pretty much the basis of getting that in and going. I'm just going to quickly save this so we have that all applied. Next, we are going to go and add a pivot, and this is going to cover. I guess we'll go and get it to actually play first. Actually, so we'll go add a flipbook player. Going to be running now. This is the speed in which you want it to run. So I believe the simulation that I'm running in EmberGen is 60, because by default EmberGen runs at 60. However, 30 is a good, you know. It's a good breakup. It's not too quick. Now, I could run 60. 60 looks pretty good. However, you are going to notice the repetition quite a lot more. So maybe you could find like a middle ground of like a 45 in between 60 and 30. Whatever you think fits best with your setup. Now, that's the basic setup of how to get a flipbook in and working. I'm going to run through, as mentioned prior, some cool tools that you can do that I'm effectively basing inspired off of Cam Ayers. So first, well, what we're going to effectively do is apply some extra randomization on top of this, and that's just going to break up the whole system. So what we're going to be doing is adding under update particle, we can go a angle Z. Let me spell it right, which will just be angle XYZ, but we will set it to just be Z there. And next we're going to add a color node. It's American color, but that works. And next we're going to be adding we're going to be effectively utilizing this, and what we're going to do is we're going to rotate and change the color to give it a bit of flicker. So I'm going to add a float, oops, a node, be random float. And at least if you're following along with exactly how I do it here, what worked for me is running a We'll leave it as is and we'll go and adjust it later. We're going to add a time, or VFX time, I guess, VFX time, exactly what I'm after. We're going to add this into a add, and what this is effectively just going to add these two together to give us our results, and this is going to go into the total time. Just going to move this a little bit to the side here. Next, we're going to add a noise 1D. Well, noise 3D, sorry, and we're going to make sure to define it as 1D. And we're going to change from purlin to value. We'll just set up the one for now. So I guess we can go set up the color here. So we're going to go drag out and go multiply. And drag this into color. Now, by default, this is going to be pretty bad. But we're accessing effectively two sections. So you've got the frequency here. Now, the issue is that we are setting it to negative, okay? So if we set this to 0 effectively, you'd be able to see, as you can see, it sort of goes and it's a bit better and going brighter and darker. Now, I have a set example that I am going to be utilizing, a mix of 3 and 20. It's a good mix of being able to boost to being quite bright, but also being quite dark. You know, do whatever you think fits best. I think a wider variety works pretty well. I'm also going to set this to be 3 to boost it quite a lot. You can change this. Maybe this is too bright for you. I look at it like it's going to be quite far away. Having a lot of bloom and stuff like that is quite good. However, maybe going like for 1 instead and going 10 may work better for your instance. I'm also going to increase the frequency because I feel like it's quite slow. And that's pretty much that there. Next, we're going to, you can of course run this under set angle as well. Ignore the fact that it's acting a little bit weird like that. However, to give a bit more control, I'm just going to duplicate these. Oops. Make sure I drag this under the same section. And input this into the angle Z. Now this allows me to set different things. Now, just so we are able to visualize exactly what's going on, we're going to go set pivot under the initialized particle. And this allows me to set where I want the pivot to be. So I'm going to go, oopsies, negative 0.5. That's going to set the pivot effectively to be down this down at the bottom of this. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit, well, not amazing at the moment. So we're going to, for one, heavily lower the frequency, so it's a lot slower. So at 0.7 works for me. We're going to increase the octaves to 2. We are therefore going to also adjust the range into the negatives, because by going just 1 to 10, this is only going to move it in one direction. We're going to set a minimum of -1, which allows it to go the other way, as well as just a normal one. And this allows it to move from side to side. Now, at the moment, it doesn't move too much. Now, instead of, you know, completely adjusting this range here, what we're going to be doing here... Now, bear in mind, this multiply is multiplying this range here. In effectively both directions. So the reason we had quite a variety here is you want it to be quite low but also quite bright, and you're just multiplying the overall result. You could of course set this to just be 1, for example, but 3 just keeps everything a bit brighter. Whereas this, just going -1 to 1, you know, changing this could be like 100, for example, and this is going to, for that instance, you know, effectively treat this as -100 and +100. But for my instance, I'm going to set this to 10. I feel like 10's a good result. And I'm pretty happy with this. Now, of course, you can decrease the frequency if you feel like it's going too much, like even like a 0.5 or a 0.3. And if you think that the candle is moving too much as well, you can, of course, also decrease this to like a 5. And now, at the end of the day, what this is going to do is it's going to give it a little bit of movement from side to side, as you can see. Just sort of breaks it up, which is ultimately pretty good. That tying with this here to boost the, I guess, the brightness of the simulation that we had done, overall combines to make a pretty good result that, you know, doesn't feel too repetitive. An instance within my game, for example, of how this can look by utilizing this. Once it finishes loading, I press L. You can see here I've got my lighter here, and it's got that effectively going, and we got some candles here that are utilizing that same deal. Now the only downside is they are utilizing the same time, so it might be pretty repetitive. However, you know, use it sparingly or make separate simulations and stuff like that to break that up. However, hopefully that was helpful. That's effectively how to go EmberGen to Unity. A bit of a long tutorial, however, there's sections that you can probably ignore if you already know how to export out of EmberGen and set up your simulation. Then, you know, I've covered that in multiple videos. So if you've watched multiple of my videos before, you possibly already know how to do it, then you can skip that section. Or at the end of the day, you know, you don't need to do any special effects in the VFX graph and just need the setup, then you could also not watch that. However, hopefully this was informative and entertaining, and that you guys have some pretty cool simulations working now. Feel free to flick me a message in the comments. I'll try my best to assist you. I'm not the craziest when it comes to VFX in Unity. I know the basics, but not too much more than that, so if it's a complex question, I might not be able to help, but I'll try my best anyway. So yeah, you guys have a good one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Laters.